So episode 1, it was pretty good. So first of all, I gotta say spoilers. Second of all, my relationship with The Walking Dead is pretty interesting. So I saw like the first episode, maybe like 10 years ago or something when I was a little kid, and it terrified me. So then I didn't watch it again until the end of high school. And then I became a really big fan of it. And I rewatched the show a couple of times with a couple of different people. I read the comic. I own a pretty big chunk of the comic, but I haven't seen any of the other spin-off shows. I know some of the big things that happen in them. And I have like fallen off The Walking Dead because, I think the show itself fell off a bit towards the end. And, I was pretty pessimistic about this coming out. I did not think it was going to be good at all. I thought it was going to be a lot of wasted time, but like I said, I am pleasantly surprised, so let's get into it. So the episode starts off with a flash forward. We see Rick, he's like in his Philadelphia apartment, and he's like considering killing himself, and it was pretty crazy because, this guy's been through like some insane shit over the years. And the only time I think we've seen him contemplating killing himself is like in the very first episode when he's seconds away from being eaten. So, it's a bit of different circumstances. And it kind of tells you a lot right away. Like he's in this place where, he's allowed his own room and he's got electricity and all this stuff. But like he just feels like it's so hopeless, like any chance of him getting back, I guess. And then we kind of go back and it shows us our first like chronological scene is 5 years after the bridge blows up. He's in the woods. He's like doing his grunt work. And this is where we get the big thing that was like leaked in all the trailers. I think it was on purpose. Maybe they just did a bad job of hiding it. But he cuts his hand off during an escape attempt. And for those of you who have read the comics, this is a pretty big thing that just got left out of the original show, because he cuts his hand gets cut off in the comics all the way back when they're still living at the prison and they're dealing with the governor and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool to see I guess that aspect of his character design finally be in live action. And then we get our first of 3 dream sequences throughout this episode where he sees Michonne in a park. And at first I thought they were trying to retcon this, like some fan fiction type stuff that like I've seen people post online, like, oh, like did he see like Glenn as like a pizza boy, or like Daryl, or like one of these people, like did he happen to see them before the fall, like maybe once or twice, and he just never knew their name. But it wasn't like that. It was just a dream sequence. So he's coming up, it's supposed to be kind of like a metaphor for where they're both at currently in the story. Like it's like, oh, I'm late for work and stuff, and then like they both talk about like how they're stuck, or like they're not where they want to be, but like they're not necessarily stuck. And like how he's like eager to see her the next he's eager to see her the next day, and like he's kind of eager to get back to her. But the whole point of these dream sequences by the end is supposed to be kind of accepting that like Rick at least is not where he wants to be, but he's not necessarily stuck. He can make the best of his situation. That's kind of like the character arc, I guess, he kind of goes on through the episode, and it's pretty interesting to see. Character arc. Wow. I mean, not expecting that either. I also wasn't expecting it to just cover so much time. Like I was glad it covered all these years already, because I can't even count anymore like how many shows you start off and you're like, okay, maybe this will be good, and you're like, all right, this is going a little slow, and then the entire first episode just nothing like that's what I thought was going to happen with this. I thought the entire first episode was just going to be him doing a bunch of nothing, and we weren't going to get like any progression at all, really. It was just going to show that he's sad and stuck. And so maybe some people will think that's all it does, but I strongly disagree. So anyways, he wakes up from his dream sequence. We see him doing more grunt work. And this is where we get introduced to our other 2 main characters, Okafor, who's like their boss, and Thorn, who's like his fellow colleague. And this guy, Okafor, what's his name? I'm just gonna call him Donald. so Donald, he wants Rick to be not just a grunt, he wants him to be a soldier, because he says, he sees this power in him, like this like strong will to live and stuff, basically. He just thinks he's more special than the other people, so he's kind of saved him from being on the chopping block a couple times. Because even though he keeps escaping, he keeps trying to recruit him just because like he can tell he would be a good fighter, which we all know he is. So he's not wrong. And then we get introduced to Thorne, like I said, who's this girl who's like doing the same kind of grunt work as Rick. But unlike Rick, she's kind of okay, or slash like she's accepted her position there, like a lot more than he has. You know, they had like she has this whole like interaction with him where you know, she talks about like, I tried to escape too. I've got someone I love out there, but you know, they're not gone. They're gone. They're not gone. I'm gone. You know, though, we're the ones who are missing, not them. So, and, you know, they wouldn't want us to die, so we should try to make the best of you know, our position here. And this is kind of like, I guess that happens a bit later. That conversation, you know, when we first see her, she's not really his friend. She just kind of thanks him for what she says. She's like, thank you for showing me I couldn't get away. Like all his like failed attempts kind of like reinforced to her to just accept her position. But anyways, kind of going back in order. Then we see a conversation with a guy who actually is his friend. This dude Esteban, and this is pretty interesting because it shows you the difference between people like Rick, who maybe have like a big life outside the walls and like really want to get back there, compared to other people who are just glad to be safe. And he's this guy, you know, he's Rick's friend. They've kind of done the same work for 6 years, and this guy, he's about to get promoted and go get like a real job, and he's going to be in kind of like the nicer area of their like city and stuff. Like he's basically going to be able to like live like a normal person with a job again, not just be like a military servant. So it's pretty cool. Like it shows you how some people are like, dude, this is great stuff. I get to have a life again. He's like, oh, dude, they got air conditioning, and Rick's like, man, like I just want to get out of here. So I really like that. And then his friend also kind of implants the idea in Rick's head. I guess he's like, dude, why don't you just keep trying to? He's like, why don't you just be a soldier, you know, and then maybe you can make your next move once you move up the ranks a bit. And, you know, Rick's like, yeah, it's not a bad idea because, you know, obviously. And you know, it was like it was pretty funny. Like even his friend points out, he's like, dude, like he wants you and stuff. Even after you cut your hand off, he's still trying to recruit you. So you should get out there, you know. And then, you know, what other option you got? Keep doing grunt work, or maybe move up a bit, and then maybe you can escape like you want to. So we're like a year in now, and this is when we get the first like kind of secret meeting between Donald and Thorne and Rick. And he kind of gives like his quote unquote evil scheme speech, but it's not really like an evil scheme. It's pretty interesting. And this is where we get explained what the A's and B's mean finally. And it's kind of what we thought. It basically just kind of means like alpha and beta. Like you're like a strong person, or kind of just like a dude who, you know, just is kind of content being in the system. And he talks about how Donald thinks Thorne and Rick are both, they're both A's. And they usually get rid of A's because, you know, they're not compliant. But he thinks, he's like, listen, guys, you guys are strong. You can get people to listen to you. Maybe we can get this, you know, maybe we can turn this into something for the better without them even knowing it. If you guys be good soldiers and you move up through the ranks, you know, you won't be able to go see your people, but maybe we can, like, you don't have to be stuck here. You know, you can make this place what you want it to be, which is kind of what Michonne says too throughout the dream sequences in the episodes. And then, you know, Rick kind of like threatens Donald and stuff. He's like, what if I tell them like about like your plan and stuff here? And or he says, what if we tell them? And then that's where Thorne gives her a whole conversation from earlier where she's like kind of more okay being there, and Rick's not really okay being there. And yeah, it was just there's a lot of interesting stuff, and this was all in like the first 20 minutes, you know. And I like the difference between their characters. I think it's good. Like we have 4 different characters here, you know. We've got the guy Donald, who's like the big military dude, and he's already like ingratiated into the system, and he's trying to recruit more people to kind of like help him improve it. You got Thorne, who's kind of just content being there. And then you know, you got Rick, who's desperately trying to escape. Got Esteban, who like kind of embraces being there. Like he's like, dude, I got a job, you know, I can go, like I can meet a girl and stuff. So a lot of interesting perspectives. And let's see what else. So we learn kind of more about the CRM in this episode, or at least I think we do. Like I said, I haven't watched the other shows, so you know, we learned that it's the like 3 circles, or like it's Portland and Omaha, which are, you know, the two other like kind of functioning cities still in the United States. And then it's Philadelphia where they are. And the difference is Philadelphia, where like Rick is secret, and that's why like he's not allowed to leave. Like they don't let people come and go, but the other two cities do. And then we kind of see the consequence of that throughout the later into the episode. When we get back to the opening, like suicide flash forward and stuff, we find out that Omaha fell, and you know, Thorne shows up and she talks to Rick about it, and she's like, you see, like they should have followed our example and been secret, you know, because they fell and it could have been something better. And she's like, she basically, it encourages her to like embrace her role in their like government and like kind of being stuck there a bit more, whereas it kind of pushes Rick more into like despair. He's like, look, like, you know, and he almost kills himself, but then he doesn't, because he's like, you know, that it would just all be for nothing, you know, maybe she's right, like maybe I should keep trying to just kind of make this work. Sorry, and I don't remember the exact order of events here. And then Rick tries to do another escape attempt. You know, he asks his buddy to tell him about like this chemical plant that they're going to soon, because his buddy who got promoted and like likes living there is like in charge of like water and like electricity or something. And basically Rick and Thorne are at like this chemical plant, and there's this funny scene where like he throws down these like blue flashlight things to distract a bunch of walkers, and makes like all these like sounds. And I thought it was I thought they were grenades for a second. I was like, what? I was like, where did this Walking Dead character get plasma grenades? But no, they were just flashlights. So that was just me being stupid. And then right when he's about to escape during this mission, he like sees this like girl in the crowd of walkers, like this little kid, and so he's like, ah, shit, like, so he can't do it. And then he tries to get like Thorne to help him like get the girl so that he can just keep going and like leave, but she stops him and she tells him, like, you know, like, Donald like knows about you, he knows about your family, which like obviously this kind of comes as like this is like a shock, and this is supposed to be like a reveal in the episode, is like he knows about Michonne and where they live, and they try to play it like, oh well, he read like Rick's letters and stuff that he's been throwing out, but it's like, what did he know about that area in the first place? Like, they know where the helicopter picked him up, and the helicopter picked him up like down the river from wherever the bridge was that blew up. Like, they like, you can see all the cities and stuff that they live in, you know. And they were talking to Jadis on the microphone. I'm like, it's not a big secret. Which then that kind of made me wonder too. I was like, why was she allowed to just like talk to them for so long? I guess because she doesn't know where they are. She was just like giving them supplies. Yeah, so then basically Rick goes and confronts Donald after this, and he's like, what do you know about me? And he's like, Rick, like, if you keep trying to escape, man, that's why I've been trying to help you. Like, they're gonna make me come kill you, and I'm gonna have to kill your family. Like, I know where you guys all live, so how about you just, you know, get with the program? You can help me like improve things here. And he kind of finally like gives into it, and we show Rick, he's like a project manager now for like, they're restoring a college somewhere, and he writes kind of like his last letter to Michonne. And this kind of like concludes his character arc, like, for the episode. Is, you know, he's finally given up, and he's finally accepting his place there, and he's like, I'm not gonna write any more letters that Michonne's never gonna read. I'm just gonna try to make the best of my situation. You know, maybe this guy's right. And it's pretty interesting. We get some more stuff about like Donald's backstory. He like was one of the bombers for Atlanta and LA and all these places, and then he bombed his own wife, who was like in the military group that was like about to kill the remaining population of one of these cities. And he kind of helped like found the CRM a bit by like betraying the US military and like siding with like I think it's a Pennsylvania State Guard instead. And it you know, this relates back to Rick's whole situation. It's like, yeah, Rick, you know, you could keep fighting us and try to go out there, and then I'll have to track you down and you'll get your whole family killed. Or, you know, you can kind of sacrifice your relationship with them for the greater good. You know, it can help me save the world. That's what he keeps saying throughout this whole episode, is Donald likes Thorne and Rick, not only because they're strong, because he thinks they're the type of people who would save the world if they could. which, you know, is like, it's kind of true. Rick's gotten pretty dark throughout the years, but he did, like, what's the famous saying from, like, the end of season 8? He's like, my mercy overcomes my wrath and stuff, you know. He's like, it's pretty, like he is a good guy at the end of the day, despite everything that's happened. So yeah, you know, it was a pretty good episode. And then we get to, like, kind of the very end. You know, he's talking with Donald in a helicopter, and he gives kind of like this last great speech about his dad and, like, his, like, childhood farm he grew up on. This was a shock to me. Maybe they've said this in something else, but, like, Rick lived on a farm in season 2 with Herschel, and I don't remember any conversation about how he grew up on a farm as a kid, but apparently he did. And he gives the story about his dad, how his dad, like, lit all their crops on fire, and he kind of, like, burned himself to make it seem like an accident so that they would get, like, insurance money and they could open a new farm, and, like, their family would be better off financially and stuff. And, you know, Rick just thought it was an accident for years, and then his mom told him later when his dad died that, like, he did it on purpose. And Rick was kind of shook by this because he was like, oh, I thought my dad was, like, an honest guy and stuff. But, like, I guess, you know, like, he was willing to do something, like, kind of bad and, like, hurt himself for, like, the sake of his family, which is, you know, kind of similar to the position Rick is in. I'm not explaining it too well. Like, other people can explain it a little better, but basically, like, it just kind of ties back into the whole, you know, like, self-sacrifice for the sake of your people, instead of, you know, trying to run back there and be selfish and get them all killed. Because it's like, if Rick's dad wouldn't have done that, then their family would have been really bad off. And if Rick keeps trying to go back, then, you know, they're gonna hurt his people and stuff. And then, so they're, like, flying in a helicopter when this whole story happens, and then Donald, who's sitting right next to him, like, hearing the story, gets shot with this weird, like, explosive. Like, it's not a rocket launcher explosive, because that would mess up the whole helicopter, but like, it's enough to just blow up his, like, upper torso. It's really weird. And then it gets hit, and then the helicopter gets hit with something else, and they crash land. And this is the final, like, big, like, oh shit thing of the episode, is they're on the ground, and you see a lady in the background cutting up the people with a sword as, like, Rick's crawling away from the helicopter crash. And I'm like, oh snap, it's her. And then it's Michonne, and that's how the episode ends, is him and Michonne, like, meet again. They don't say anything, but they're just kind of, like, in shock at each other's presence and stuff, because it's been, like, 10 years now, or, like, maybe even a little longer, because I think there's, like, an 8-year time skip in season 9, and then, like, 2 more years between, like, that and, like, the finale of the whole show. So yeah, it was pretty crazy way to end the first episode. And I heard another guy say he's kind of worried now about the rest of the season, because he's like, oh, is this too soon for them to be meeting again? And he's like, would it have been better if it happened in, like, episode 4 or 5? And I disagree, because, you know, maybe, like, a couple years ago I would agree with that, but now it's like, man, Walking Dead is really dragging its feet. Like season 9, 10, 11 were all super dragged out. Season 7 and 8 were dragged out. We got all these spin-off shows, so when the series finale came of Walking Dead, we knew, like, all the characters were going to be fine, because now they got their spin-off shows. Daryl's in France, Maggie and Negan are in New York. Like, there's a whole lot of stretched out BS that's going on. So I'm glad that they met right away, because, I mean, that's the main thing I wanted from the show anyways, is I just want to get Rick kind of back with some of the other characters. I want to hear them talk. And, you know, obviously that can't happen right away. And, you know, they give good reasons for why it can't happen right away, and even for why Rick kind of gave up on that and stuff. But I think it's good that they're meeting like this, because like, I feel like we've had to wait long enough for them to reunite. You know, it doesn't need to take it, like, too much longer. So I think it was a good way to end the first episode. Kind of a nice, like, last minute, like, hook cliffhanger to grab you. So yeah, guys, I think that's about it. I really liked it, and if some more crazy shit goes down, I'll make some more reviews, and I'll definitely make one when the whole show's finished. So y'all have a good one.